I'm not going to give you, like a exam review packet kind of thing to get ready. It's just going to be those assignments, and then I'm going to give you basically a checklist of things you need to know for the exam. So let's see if you guys remember your toolbox. Anybody remember your toolbox? What's secant equal? 1 over, that one you should know. Cosecant is equal to 1 over sine. Cotangent is equal to 1 over tangent. So there's your reciprocal identities. What were your ratio identities? Tangent is equal to sine over cosine. Cotangent is then equal to cosine over sine. All right, Pythagorean identities. Sine squared equals 1. 1 plus tangent squared is equal to secant squared. And then 1 plus cotangent squared would equal cosecant squared. The questions on the exam over this part of the chapter, I'm not going to put any actual proofs on there. So you're welcome on that part. But the types of questions you're going to see are more of the simplification aspects, and it might just be a simplification of those. It might be something like, what does tangent divided by secant simplify into? Like that's the whole question. And then it might be, the choices would be like sine or cosine or 1 over cosine or 1 over sine, something like this. Like that would be the multiple choice question. So what you would have to do is just make a substitution. So what could you change tangent into? Sine over cosine? And then you could change secant into 1 over cosine. You multiply by the reciprocal, so sine over cosine times cosine over 1. The answer is sine. Questions like that. Like that's pretty much what, out of this chapter, the types of things that you'll have to be able to do. So in the review, those 7, 8 questions, and those are all basically proofs. If you can do those, the types of questions on the actual exam over those should be super, super easy. It might be as simple as, what does secant equal? And you got to say, is it 1 over sine or 1 over cosine? Or if you know your table, it should be good. It could be something like, what does secant squared minus 1 simplify into? And that's just a matter of, do you know your toolbox? Because that is a rearranged version of secant squared minus 1 would be tangent squared. So if you know your toolbox, you should be in good shape. Okay? Has anyone started the page 150 assignment yet? Is there anything on that page that you'd like me to do? Can you read it off for me? Sine times secant
plus cotangent equals 1 over sine times cosine.
So like that. All right, so first thing I do, the right side is all in sine and cosine. So turn it all into sine and cosine. So secant is the same thing as 1 over cosine, right? So times sine, that would be sine over cosine. And then cotangent would be cosine over sine. So now you need a common denominator. So what would your common denominator be? Sine times cosine, because you need one of each. So what's missing out of this denominator? The sine. So I get times it by sine, and I get sine squared. This one's missing the cosine, so I multiply cosine, and I get cosine squared. And what is sine squared plus cosine squared? 1. So. And again, I don't think there's going to be anything as complicated as that on the exam, but it's just going to be more of a simplification type of thing. Okay? And that's really all you need to know out of Chapter 3. So basically, all week long, the lesson plan is exactly the same. Tomorrow, I'm going to start with questions over Chapter 3. See if you have any questions over anything off of that review you want me to finalize. And then I'm going to do kind of the same thing tomorrow over Chapter 4 and go through what you need to know. This one was really easy. It's pretty much just the toolbox. If you know the toolbox, you should be in good shape. Tomorrow I'll go through, it'll take me a little bit longer because I got to go through all the different scenarios of side, side angle, side, all those. And then, so tomorrow I'm going to make sure there's no questions over Chapter 3. If you guys don't have questions over Chapter 3, then I'm done with Chapter 3. Like, I'm not going to bring it up again unless you guys bring it up. And then I'll talk about Chapter 4, see if you guys have questions over Chapter 4. And then next day, Chapter 5, and so on and so on. Okay?